Not too shabby.
Good. We had a good week.
Yeah, same old really. What about you?
Yeah, same old. Yeah, I've been at work and missing Formula One. Obviously, it's been a week now since, or it's over a week since we. Oh, there's a cat. Since we've had Sebastian Vettel's last race and the last race of the 2022 F1 season. Are you coping okay without Formula One?
Yeah, not too bad. Are you getting withdrawal symptoms yet?
Personal space. Yeah.
Yes, he is. Right, well, back to me then.
Yes, it would appear he is getting withdrawal symptoms, Mr. Neil. Why are you not getting withdrawal symptoms, sir?
Well, it's a little bit early for me as yet, but yeah, it'll kick in at some point.
I blame the cat.
What does the cat do?
I don't know. I am getting withdrawal symptoms, to be honest, because it was such a good season. So many things happened, so much excitement. At the end of the season was a little bit, I suppose, a bit more dull with the Red Bull dominance, but well, there we go. So I suppose two main bits of news really out of Formula One this week. I can't remember if it's happened in the past week, if it was maybe just before, but Daniel Ricciardo going back to Red Bull. Was that so? Did we discuss that last week, or has that happened sort of in the past few days? I can't really remember.
I think we briefly mentioned it, but yeah, we can carry on with it.
Yeah, it's obviously the news is a little bit older now, so it's not going to be breaking news or any surprise to anyone. But yeah, he's going to be returning to his former team as the third driver, test and reserve driver, in place, sort of around where just underneath Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen, ready to step in should Verstappen and Perez be unable to race one weekend. And I suppose they can use him for demo runs and that sort of thing, and marketing, because he's a very marketable driver. Probably up there with the likes of Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton as probably the biggest names in the sport, I would say. I think it's a good move for him, to be honest. I don't know what you feel about it.
I don't believe it's a bad move. It's better than not being involved at all.
Keeps his foot in the door, doesn't it? Of a good team as well. It's not like he's vanished completely, and with the eyes, he's made it clear he's looking ahead to 2024 and beyond. So it could be a good move for him.
He seems to think so. I still wonder whether he should have taken one of the drives either at Haas or Williams, but
I'd have loved to have seen him in the Williams. Him and Albon and the Williams would have been great together. I think they would have been a great team. And there's less pressure, the likes of Haas or Williams. It's a bit more low profile. But at the end of the day,
he was never going to go to AlphaTauri, was he?
No, not at all. That's very much stepping back in time. It's like going back to the junior team. That'd have been a bit of a kick in the teeth, I think. But yeah, obviously we'll see what becomes of it. We'll probably expect to see him. I don't know if he's going to do any FP1 runs this year. I don't know if that's been
mentioned
discussed
on Sky. That would be unlikely, but we'll find out.
Yeah, they'll probably run.
Here we go again. Right, yeah. I guess Martin's left us as well. Just the two of us. You can come back, Steve, anytime you like. All is forgiven.
There we go. Oh, jeez. Unbelievable. Sorry about that.
Yay.
I was in limbo.
Sorry, I was sorting out courgette. Sorry. I
was just stuck in the ether somewhere. Hey, jeez. Well, that was a moment. There we go. It's not going well tonight. It was fine until we went live. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So we shall certainly see sort of how well Ricciardo does this year. Whether he'll do any FP1 runs or not, I doubt it. But obviously he'll get some demo runs and some little tests and things and a bit of marketing, and he gets to sort of, I suppose, recuperate and rejuvenate himself, really.
Yeah. Um, yeah, there's a little bit of me that believes he's a bit past it anyway.
Hmm.
I'd like to see him be his old self, but yeah, I'm not sure.
I hope we see him back and more successful than he has been the past couple of years. I'd like to see him sort of fight at the front again. I think his chance for a world championship fight is probably gone now, but we'll see. But talking of gone now, the biggest news to come out of Formula One, the part of certainly the winter break, even though the winter break's only a week old. Mattia Binotto, Ferrari are currently without a team principal after saying that the rumours between Mexico and Abu Dhabi, Brazil and Abu Dhabi, with the rumours of Mattia Binotto's imminent departure and strong rumours that he'll be replaced by Fred Vasseur, currently of Alfa Romeo Sauber. Ferrari saying that these rules are unfounded and they are not true. He's gone. So Ferrari obviously knew that was rubbish.
Yeah, he left. He said he's left on good terms. I guess my feeling is he left before he was pushed. I guess they would have just said goodbye to him anyway, and yeah, he's just done this early.
Yeah, it's very much a get out while you can sort of thing before they get rid of you. So he's left on his terms. I don't think he was team principal material. Very good as an
engineer. Yeah.
Was he good as an engineer though? Oh, so that's a question. That's not an opinion.
I think he was. It's more he in that role from a team I know more closely in McLaren. I don't know how it equates across to Ferrari, but he's more of a man manager. Organizes departments, and then it's the departments that specialize in what they're doing. That's why I just don't feel that, even though his parachute covers all the bases, and he should be asking questions of why different sections haven't worked as they should do, I don't believe the cock-ups as such fall on him.
No, there was obviously a couple of issues this year as well, sort of driver mess-ups. Sort of notably Charles Leclerc in France. Obviously, that was nothing obviously to do with Binotto. That was Charles Leclerc, but it seems to be that the sort of the finger wag thing he did to Charles Leclerc after Silverstone, and it doesn't seem like he's very good at being that much of a man manager. To be honest, it's almost like a no-blame culture. Like it's it's all right, don't worry about it. We'll get him next time. You're not allowed to be angry or complain. When he famously said that he sees no reason why Ferrari couldn't win the remaining 10 races, and then Red Bull won 9 of them and Mercedes won the other 1. Their last victory would have been Austria, with Charles Leclerc when Carlos Sainz's engine blew. I don't know. I don't think he was the right man. I think he was good as an engineer because he was part of that team when they had the dominance with Michael Schumacher and the sort of the Ross Brawn, Jean Todt eras of Ferrari, I suppose. Metal Jace, Ross Brawn just retired. I'd like Ferrari to throw him a load of money to replace him. That would be ideal. As an F1 romantic, that would be ideal. Ross Brawn, obviously, he's made it clear he's stepping back from Formula One now, and he's done his time in the sport. Fair play to him. He's been in F1 for a long, long time. Obviously, starting when he worked at Benetton, obviously all those years ago with Michael Schumacher. But wouldn't it be great just to see him sort of have like a bit of a swan song at Ferrari and just go back and maybe mastermind one more title and then go, right, that's it. I'm done now.
What was Brawn's role when he was there? Because I thought it was Jean Todt that...
Jean Todt, I think, was team principal.
I thought he was the Binotto role.
I think Jean Todt was the Binotto role. Was Brawn a senior engineer? Jace,
yeah, that's what.
Tell us actually.
Yeah, I think he oversaw all of the engineering that went on.
A very, very clever man. Obviously, masterminded Brawn GP as well, who won their only season in Formula One, 2009. Remember that. It would be great because he's got such a clever mind, such a technical guy. It'd be great to see him go back and have one more go and try and get some success back to Ferrari. it's not gonna happen.
Thoughts on the new F1 regulations?
Yeah, hi JG. Thank you for joining us. I like them. There's a bit of tweaking that needs doing. I don't know about how you feel about it, Neil. I think that as a first year, obviously for such a massive revamp and a massive overhaul, I think it was successful overall.
Yeah, I think close people to us and not particularly Verstappen fans. So a lot of them have been a bit, oh, it's a boring season as he's dominated it so much. But I think on the whole, if you look at it as more of a neutral, the regulations have done what they were intended, at least to a degree. Yeah. I think the DRS needs to be given a tweak because it's just too strong.
DRS needs a bit of a revamp. I think it was good. Like you say, if you're a Verstappen fan, you absolutely loved it. If you don't like Verstappen, you hated it. But I like Verstappen. And even towards the end, I was starting to get a bit sort of like, all right, it'd be nice to see someone else win. But I think the regulations did what was asked of them. They provided closer racing. We had some phenomenal overtakes. We had close battles. The pecking order was ebbing and flowing throughout the season. You had the likes of Alfa and Haas starting off really well and then fading a bit. Mercedes weren't the top team anymore. You had Red Bull assert themselves at the top again, a resurgent Ferrari. Williams consistently at the back. It was fantastic. Apart from that, I think the regulations did what was asked of them, and they're only going to get better. They're only going to improve, obviously, as teams get more comfortable with the cars and can explore the designs a bit more. RB was technical director of Ferrari. Okay, so John Todd as team principal and Ross Brawn as technical director. Yeah, get those two back in.
What are the other things that have changed for next year? It was the 15 mil, weren't there, on the floor being raised? Is there anything else? I can't think.
Off the top of my head, I can't actually remember. I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be enough changing next year to really sort of upset the pecking order again. I think you're going to have teams that come back into it stronger. Mercedes, being the obvious choice, they ended the season strongly, certainly in comparison to how they started it. I think they'll come back stronger next year. Ferrari, providing they get a decent team principal who can organise and get things operating smoothly, I think Ferrari will be a team to be reckoned with again next year. I think the top three with Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari are going to be very, very close. Hopefully,
it would be nice to have Ferrari not have all their issues, because as you've mentioned before, they started so strong, and to finish it the way they did, it's a bit of an embarrassment. And
it was awful.
They
start the season as the clear fastest car. Red Bull were sort of in a bit of a meltdown, weren't they? Because they double DNF'd at the first race, and then won the next one, and then Verstappen DNF'd again in Australia. So 2 out of 3 races at the start of his championship defending season, he's ended up not even getting to the finish line. With Charles Leclerc winning 2 of those races, and obviously a 1-2 in Bahrain. So, it seemed like Ferrari were going to absolutely run away with it. And then it all unravelled, and they end up trying to cement second fastest or second in the championship over Mercedes, who were absolutely nowhere at the start of the season. So in some ways you can view it as a success for Ferrari, but in a lot of ways you can view it as a failure.
Yeah, I guess from what they have been like, they would take it as a bit of a success, but from the way it started, or at the start of the season, and then how it played out, for me, that's just one big loss. It should have been a lot tighter than it was.
Yeah, you think the races they lost as well. They lost most likely Azerbaijan, engine failure. They lost Spain with reliability. They lost France with Charles Leclerc binning it. They lost Monaco with the pit stop blunder, which caused Charles Leclerc the win. And yeah, he potentially could have got a better result in Silverstone, but that was another mess up. So yeah, they lost a lot of solid points in 2022. So although, yeah, they were way off the pace in 2020 and not really on it in 2021, it was great to see them back sort of fighting at the front when the car survived long enough and when the team knew what they were doing. But,
Yes, for me, it seemed at that point where they changed the floors because there were certain teams that were apparently allowing the floor to flex, which was, you couldn't say it was a rule break because it was just a gentleman's agreement that the FIA decided they wanted to make it a bit stricter. I still don't believe they test the flex in the whole floor. They still do the one section they always have done.
okay.
But, yeah. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, it meant that teams had to change the ones that tried to, do a workaround.
Yeah.
And it seemed that from that point onwards, it just didn't favour the Ferrari as much. The Red Bull just didn't seem to be affected because everyone was saying at the time that, this is brilliant. Red Bull are now going to be awful and Mercedes will be back at it, or Ferrari will be top still. And yeah, it just never worked that way. Ferrari just disappeared.
And Red Bull were just on another level. Second half of the season, it reminds me a bit of 2013, where they came back after the summer break and Seb won the remaining 9 races. It reminds me a bit of that because they just come back and instantly, I mean, even though they were, the quickest team in the first part of the season for large parts of it, they were just on another level in that second half. No one could get anywhere near them. It did start to get a little bit sort of like, all right, it was great, but now I'd like to see someone else win, namely Charles. But we ended up getting an insane level of dominance from Red Bull, something we haven't seen obviously since Seb was at the team, 10 years ago. But other teams started to close the gap. Ferrari did start to sort of iron their mistakes out, I think, and their strategy blunders and reliability issues towards the end of the season. Mercedes picked up a win in Brazil, courtesy of George Russell, which obviously ended Hamilton's streak of winning in every season since 2007, which is just an insane record.
There was a stat that came out. They added Schumacher into it, and I think it went back to, was it 95?
91.
91.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
Basically, between them two, they had won a race every season since 91.
Since 91. That is an insane. 30 years ago was the last time that Hamilton or Schumacher weren't at the top of this podium in Formula One. Incredible. And I think it's the first time in his career he's finished outside the top 5 in the championship, which isn't bad considering, some years he's had an absolute dog of a car. The 09 McLaren for a start, and the years of the Red Bull dominance, to still be up there, with a quick Jenson Button as a teammate, the 2 Ferraris with Fernando and I think Felipe at the time, who was a bit past it then, but, some very, very quick guys. And he was always sort of up there. So the win came courtesy this year of George Russell, and Mercedes seem confident that they're going to be back to their old ways in 23.
I know Lewis was trying a lot more setup changes than George was. I guess George trying to cement himself within the team and not wanting to risk as much as Lewis was, being there for as long as he has. He's more integrated and they know how well each other work. And for whatever reason, he chose to try some more setup variations, in which hampered him early on in the season. And that's really helped George get some points on him early on.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see if they have a championship winning car. Can George go the length of the season? Because we all know he's a quick driver. He's proved that, but can he do it for the whole season?
He went through a sort of phase this year, not really a phase, but sort of a little period this year of getting a bit scruffy, didn't he? Because he like we said, with Hamilton trying a lot of these experimental parts, Russell had the edge on him through the early part of the season. This run of top 5s that carried on until Silverstone. But yeah, he had a few races sort of around the sort of Austin and
I was thinking
Singapore,
just after the
Hungary.
summer break.
Yeah, he went off the pace a little bit. He got in a couple of scrapes he shouldn't really have done, namely punting Sainz out of the race at turn 1 in Austin. Did you see in the cool-down room actually after that race as well? Charles Leclerc is sitting there and he's going, what happened to Carlos? And it didn't take Charles. I punted Carlos out. So he punted Sainz out of turn 1 and Charles is sitting there going, oh, what happened to Carlos? And Lewis is going, George took him out. And he said it like really sort of like, George took him out. Sorry.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, because we get a delay on the talking, don't we? Just in case there's something said that shouldn't be. But so you can see him sitting there, and
just trying to figure out a way to tell him that his teammate got taken out by the other guy's teammate.
Because I think it was on that one they were actually quite chatty, because they're not always.
No, usually it's quite quiet. There's always like an awkward silence in the cool-down room, isn't there? And I miss that. But I miss that the old cool-down room, because they used to be like quite fiery, and before the days when they were able to mute it, you'd have drivers swearing and everything in the cool-down room, which was fantastic.
That's something I was thinking, that you just don't see the drivers shoving each other around and all the shenanigans that used to go on.
No, I do miss that. Even Louis, welcome in. Thank you for joining us. I do miss that. I don't want to maybe go the whole way of Piquet when he just decked that guy in the head, even though he had a helmet on, after he got taken out of the race, or Senna and Irvine getting all squared up. But you don't get that sort of level of emotion. It's all very sort of PR and very sort of media focused. Oh, we can't say this and we can't do this because it's all on the media. And I do miss that. I remember Mark Webber when he got taken out by Seb Vettel back in 2007, I want to say, and he called him a kid who F's it all up. I mean, obviously only one of those went on to have a truly fantastic F1 career, and it wasn't Mark. But I missed that because it was live on TV, and they ought to go, oh, I'm so sorry for any bad words you may have heard there. I love it. F1 needs those kind of characters in it again. It doesn't have them.
I guess it doesn't help because all the youngsters are trained now that the way they have to be for the media. Yeah.
Juan Pablo Montoya, he didn't go to an ounce of PR training in his F1 career. Neither did Webber, neither did Kimi. But maybe they should just get taught by Montoya. Because you look at someone like George, he always has to say the right thing.
I still remember Juan Pablo missing some races for McLaren for an injury that he shouldn't have sustained. Yeah, it was supposed to be tennis or squash, something like that. But
not a quad bike injury at all.
It's funny, everyone knows it.
And they would continue to say, yeah, tennis injury. Are you sure? No, it definitely wasn't a quad bike. I don't know what you're talking about. That wasn't me. Oh dear. But yeah, they're all sort of very PR trained, and I think George did quite well to maintain sort of composure over the course of the season, because he was coming under a little bit of scrutiny. Certainly around that sort of towards the end of the season when he had run-ins with Schumacher, I think it was in Singapore, and when he punted Sainz out, and there were some scruffy races from him, and obviously Hamilton was then closing the gap, but I think he silenced a lot of people with that win in Brazil, because he was incredible in Brazil. The car was very, very quick anyway. But George was incredible that weekend. I think that was the happiest I've been seeing an F1 winner for a long time, apart from Charles. And it was thoroughly deserved. I mean, if you came into the season with Mercedes struggles and then you said only one driver is going to win a race with Mercedes this year, you probably would have put your money on Hamilton, because of it's Hamilton. He's been there for years. He knows the team, the car. It's the skill he has, the talent he's got to get the most out of any machinery he's given. And it was George, because he was just insane in Brazil.
Yeah, it's Lewis doing Lewis things, I guess, when it comes to being with the same bit of track as Max. Yeah,
that was questionable. Obviously, Max got the penalty for it. Was it a Stonewall penalty? I don't think so.
I don't believe so. I think it was a bit of both, but Lewis could have left a bit more space, but he didn't. Max wasn't ever going to give it up. So the inevitable happened.
Didn't Max say that he wasn't going to back out and he knew Lewis wasn't either? So it's almost like, right, okay, we're going to make contact here. Whatever happens.
That's the thing. He's a bit of a Senna, isn't he? In regards of he's never going to give anything easily.
No. I do like that.
Yeah, to a degree.
Yeah,
You think all the racing drivers, I suppose Schumacher had a bit of that about him as well.
I suppose.
You think what sort of a career he had.
Yeah, if you want to be a successful racing driver, you've got to be a bit of a bastard, really. You've got to, have that sort of edge to you. I mean, Verstappen is, Hamilton is. We've also seen Fernando, Schumacher, and Senna, Prost. They've all been pains, to be honest, because they've all had that. I don't care. Well, if we crash, we crash. I'll do what I can to win. Schumacher parking his car at Rascasse in Monaco in qualifying. And then you've got the likes of, Verstappen sticking the nose in where there's going to be contact. Years ago, when Hamilton and Massa kept finding each other on track as well. To be successful in Formula One and to obviously get positions, you need to be a bit of a bastard.
The only ones I think that, like the likes of Damon Hill, I don't believe he was too much, and you got Jenson Button and that. They both got their titles, so I guess you can get one, I suppose, by being a nice guy, but you don't get the huge amounts of titles, do you, without upsetting someone? No,
that's it. I mean, most drivers have won a championship by pissing off another driver. No one's going to back down, but a lot of drivers have won titles in controversial circumstances, or by irritating another driver, by controversial moves like Schumacher and Hill in '94, when Schumacher ended up on two wheels. I think it was '94. And he basically, because he turned in on Hill and Hill hit him out into the wall. And Murray Walker losing his shit at it. So a couple of extra questions. Louis Fenton, it's a shame this season ended up the way it did. It felt like it was done and dusted once they returned from the summer break. I think we'll see a closer battle next year. Yeah, I agree. It felt like it was going to be really close and competitive and sort of ebbing and flowing throughout the course of the season, certainly with the early pace from Ferrari and the reliability issues for Red Bull, Mercedes being nowhere. But Ferrari, as we said earlier, Ferrari faded and Red Bull just hit another level, and it did run away. It suddenly became the Max Verstappen show. It's pretty much ever since Red Bull become bulletproof and Ferrari fell to bits, it was done and dusted from that point onwards. Can you imagine looking at the standings after Australia and seeing Leclerc had 2 wins, Verstappen had 2 DNFs. Leclerc had 2 wins in a second as well, and Verstappen had 2 DNFs. The pace of the Ferrari, the pace of the Red Bull, the reliability issues of the Red Bull, and then saying that, who would you put your money on? And then when he gets to the end of the season, Red Bull have won it by an absolute landslide. Verstappen has won a record-breaking number of races in a season. It would have blown my mind, to be honest, because I honestly thought I was on that Ferrari hype train. I was buying tickets the whole lot, but not to be. Yeah, I wanted Sainz to improve. I think he will next year. It's going to be his 3rd year with the team. Yeah, 3rd year with the team. I think he'll improve next year. He could be all right. The only problem I see is the guy that's potentially lined up for the Binotto job is someone that's not particularly favourable to Carlos. Is it Fred Vasseur? That's the one. Yeah, he's very much a fanboy. Yeah. If you're Carlos, you're going to be thinking, come on. He's already number 2 anyway, so I guess a load of the comments I've read, it doesn't particularly matter. But no. Well, we'll see. We're getting to the end of our 30-minute pit stop anyways, but there's a couple more comments that we'll go through. I've had a night of it tonight. Hulkenberg and Magnussen at Haas in 2023. Hopefully that'll bring some more interviews, namely after that one back in 2017 where Magnussen told Hulkenberg to suck something.
Yeah, they've apparently already long forgotten that.
Yeah, I think you're professional racing drivers. You'll bury the hatchet. You'll move on. You're going to be fighting for the same cause next year. I think it'll be good. I think they'll have a good relationship together. And you've got two strong characters in the same team as well, which is going to be good for them, good for the team.
Along the lines of that, you've also got Ocon and Gasly that don't particularly see eye to eye.
Yeah, they're not the best of friends, are they?
And we know how Alonso gets on with Ocon as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Ocon saying that this year he did 98% of the work and Alonso did 2. I don't find that hard to believe, but I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of Ocon, to be honest. I know you've got to try and remain impartial, but it's just something I can't agree with.
I know Alonso is a little bit of a character that potentially can upset the apple cart, but I'm not a fan of Ocon.
No. Hopefully Alpine will have a better car next year.
It'll be interesting to see how Alonso gets on with Stroll.
I think in terms of race to race, he's going to absolutely destroy Stroll. And I think there's 2 strong personalities there as well. So I reckon that'll be a close one to watch. But
some might say he'll Stroll it.
Yeah, walk in the park. Louis Fenton, the one lineup he thinks will be tense is Piastri and Norris. Well, I don't know. I think they'll get on okay. If Piastri starts beating Norris early on, though,
yes,
that could change it.
I know a lot of people that love Ricciardo. They're hoping that Piastri doesn't do very well. I just think that's a bit of a stupid thing to come out with, and I hope him all the best.
Really takes the fight to Norris. Oh, I'm really struggling with words tonight.
It's all on Ricciardo for underperforming for the amount of time he has.
Yeah, so you got to say, is Norris incredible, or was Ricciardo that poor? Norris is an insanely good driver. No mistake about that. But I think it's going to be very, very good, very close and tense battle at McLaren next year. Piastri will need to assert himself nice and early to avoid slipping into that number 2 role. A team is very much built around Norris anyway.
Yeah, I think Norris needs it because when they had Carlos there, the 2 of them pushing the team forward, it was really good.
Yeah.
And if anything, I'd say Carlos slightly had the upper hand. So it was quite good when Norris did end up outperforming him now and again. So you knew he was really driving a good race.
Yeah. I think he could maybe sort of relax a bit the past couple of years because he knew Ricciardo was way off the pace. Next year, he's got to be on it. And I think finally, as we approach the end, Louis, again, if China gets cancelled because of COVID, do you think they'll find a replacement or do you think they will just have 23? I think they'll stick with 23 because that is a hell of a lot of races.
What was this one again, sorry?
If China gets cancelled because of the ongoing COVID issues in China.
I think, what's his name? He'll be disappointed not to have his home race.
Zhou. Yeah. I do want to see China because it's an incredible circuit as well. It's one of the modern ones that provides some great races. And I want to see it for Zhou. But, yeah, we'll see. I think they'll stay with... If it does get cancelled, I think they'll stay at 23. I don't know about you. I think that they'll probably feel there's enough races now.
I know enough of the teams believe that 23 is enough anyway.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. I don't know where else they could go, really. I'll go back to Turkey. That'd be great. But I think 23 is perfect. But I think that just about brings out the checkered flag. So we're back 7:15 next Wednesday. If there's any more of the F1 news, we shall certainly bring you up to date on that as well. We might have the Ferrari's new team principal as we count down. It's under 100 days now until Formula One is back. So not that I'm counting down too much at all. But, not at all. But, yeah. Thank you very much for watching. Love to see all of your comments and opinions. We really appreciate you getting involved. I have been Steve when my camera works. He has been Neil, very consistent tonight. His camera works the whole time. And we'll see you next Wednesday at 7:15. Cheers.